hospitals across Brazil are running out of beds. This one in the state of Amazonas has been set up in an empty school, and it's nearly full.
It's very difficult, but I was treated well, and I pray that everyone here will be cured.
In Sao Paulo, clinics and medical centers are on the brink of collapse. Officials say most of the patients have coronavirus.
Even after opening the ICU and nursing areas, we're using 76% of the nursing beds and 91% of the ICU beds.
The outbreak has claimed thousands of lives and is spreading rapidly, making Brazil one of the worst affected countries in the world. And lockdowns are taking a toll on the economy. GDP is expected to shrink by 5.1% this year, its sharpest fall on record. The unemployment rate climbed to 12.2% in April from 11.6% in the previous month. Economists are expecting the level to rise even further in coming weeks. And stimulus measures announced by the government are projected to create a $120 billion budget deficit. President Jair Bolsonaro wants to reopen the economy, but many states say they're simply not ready.
To beat this economic crisis, we first have to beat coronavirus. The enemy of the economy is not quarantine, it's the pandemic.
That's creating tensions between Congress and the president. Bolsonaro has lost some key allies. 2 health ministers have resigned in less than a month, as has the justice minister. Instead, the president is finding support among those protesting against the lockdown.
People need to work. People need to eat. People are tired of the problems they have at home.
But critics, including medical professionals, are growing more concerned by the day, afraid that if Bolsonaro gets what he wants, it could lead to a public health catastrophe. Mobin Nasir, TRT World.
Well, for more on this, Carlos Caicedo joins us now from London. He's a Latin America Risk Analyst at IHS Markit. Welcome to the program, Carlos. Now, Brazil's president, as we know, has often been dubbed the Trump of the tropics. And as we saw there, he's really repeatedly downplayed the severity of the outbreak in his country. He's described it as a little flu. He's also joined several anti-lockdown protests across the country. Do you think Brazil is now paying the price for Bolsonaro's cavalier attitude towards the pandemic?
Well, partially yes, because you need an unified position in a country to tackle the pandemic. And that has been the case in Europe, in China, Australia, the UK. Brazil has a different political structure. Unfortunately for Brazil, I would say fortunately, it's a federal government, and legally Bolsonaro cannot order the lifting of the lockdown. It will be down to the governors, and that's why the situation is no worse. The big problem I see here is because of his political isolation, losing popularity. What he's going to do more and more is to invite his supporters to demand a lifting to the lockdown on the grounds that the economy is collapsing. So he is not helping, but bear in mind that the Supreme Court has clearly issued that the last say on a lockdown lays with the governors and the local mayors. In many ways, that has tied Bolsonaro's hand, but nonetheless, his noise and his lack of cooperation is sending the wrong signals at the moment where you need a unified response to the whole crisis.
Yes, and we know President Bolsonaro has openly attacked those state governors and local mayors for locking down their economies to curb the spread of the virus. Now, how are they working to deal with the outbreak in spite of Bolsonaro's condemnation of what they're doing?
Well, they have contradicted him openly. In fact, at the beginning of this dispute, 21 governors out of 27 wrote a public letter condemning the president and saying that they were going to implement a lockdown. I think something which is a big political battle is in the state of Sao Paulo, the largest state, the wealthiest state. but there is a political background fight there, is because João Doria, the governor of Sao Paulo, is the potential contender for the presidential election in 2022. And therefore, what Doria wants to show is that he's been a good leader, he's responsible, he's dealing with the crisis, and Bolsonaro wants to undermine him. So that political battle between Bolsonaro and Doria is also a background to all this. But the majority of the governors actually have gone down for the lockdown. The problem is Brazil has a large amount of informal workers, unemployed people, people that have to go out to earn a few reais to be able to feed the families. And Bolsonaro is using that as a political tool to try to get supporters for his claim that the lockdown is damaging the country more than the coronavirus is doing.
Interesting. Carlos Caicedo in London from IHS Markit, thank you so much for your analysis.